Blood and Ruins, The Great Imperial War, 1931-1945, Richard Overy. The Germans mobilized quotations from the Koran to support the cause of Arab liberation from Britain, the unjust, violent, criminal. Play was made with the idea of a world Jewish conspiracy to enslave the Arab peoples. The SS issued 1,000,000 copies of a pamphlet claiming that the giant Jew king Dajjal, foretold in the Quran, would be slain by God's servant Hitler. He will kill the Dajjal, as it is written, destroy his palaces and cast his allies into hell. The campaign had little success. The Iraqi revolt was the only time Arab hostility to Britain's imperial ambitions resulted in violence. Radio propaganda was hampered by the shortage of radios. In Saudi Arabia, there were only 26 in the whole country, and the 55,000 in Egypt were owned chiefly by Europeans resident there, while the exploitation of the Koran in support of a clear political motive was resented by Muslim clerics. The Iranian mullah Ruhollah Mousavi, better known later as Ayatollah Khomeini, condemned National Socialist propaganda as the most poisonous and heinous product of the human mind. German and Italian claims that they were anti-imperialist were difficult to sustain after the brutal suppression of Libyan, Arab and Berber populations. Although supposed to respect the local Arab peoples, the German soldiers in North Africa, according to one report, treated them as racial inferiors, calling them colored, nigger, and even confusingly Jew. The British, nevertheless, remained pessimistic after the Iraqi revolt about the continued threat to the security of the region. The chief of the Imperial General Staff, General John Deal, told his chief of operations only 2 weeks after the surrender of Baghdad, "I suppose you realize we shall lose the Middle East." The assistance given to Axis air units by the Vichy French authorities in Syria showed once again that Britain could expect no sympathy from the former French ally. There were substantial French forces in Syria and Lebanon, with at least 35,000 French and colonial troops and 90 tanks. Wavell was told to eliminate the threat, and on 8 June, a mixed force of British, Australian, Indian, and Free French troops moved west from Iraq towards Damascus and north from Palestine towards Beirut. After bitter fighting, the French commander, General Henry Denge, sued for an armistice. Britain assumed military control of the French Mandate, while the Free French tried to reassert, with mixed fortunes, French control of the civil government. British forces and officials now occupied the entire Middle East, from Egypt to the Iranian frontier, the greatest extent of British influence across the region. To mask the extent of British control, an effort was made to mount a campaign to advertise the virtues of British democracy. Like the Germans, the British publicity offices mobilized the Koran in support of their propaganda. One colorful poster distributed in Iraq proclaimed, "The religion of Islam is the spirit of democracy. Democracy is the essence of the Koran." The campaign suffered from Britain's evident willingness to use traditional imperial practices to retain control: press censorship, summary arrest, deportation, advisors embedded in central and local government, while preaching the virtues of liberal politics. The American legation in Baghdad reported to Washington the sheer depth of British penetration of the governmental and economic apparatus, all designed to serve the well being of the British Empire. The British priority remained the security of their communications and oil supplies, but by the end of June 1941, a new threat emerged with the German invasion of the Soviet Union. The possibility opened that German forces would push into the Middle East from the Caucasus together with an advance through Egypt. Worse still was the geopolitical nightmare that Japan and Germany might join forces to drive the British and their allies entirely from Eurasia. Oh,